welcome back to He Heals podcast. I am so excited because today we have another very special guest, Mrs. Aisha Cox. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, I'm super excited to be here with you.
Yeah. So, if you don't know who Aisha is, she is a preacher, a speaker, a writer, a rapper, an
Oh, why
actor.
you gonna
Like,
throw that one in there? I don't know. I have a secret dream to
hmm
to want to be,
it's public. It's public
It's
now. I
out there
saw the
now.
last post,
You did.
and it
You
was so
did.
good.
Thank you.
So many things. One thing I didn't mention is you also started a community, a women's community called Authentically Arise.
Yes.
And so, would you tell us a little bit about Authentically Arise? What is it, and what inspired you to create it?
Yes. First of all, I'm still trying to recover from you calling me a rapper because my church is like, Aisha, you need to do that every week now. And I'm like, no, thank you. So yeah, Authentically Arise. In 2020, I had an opportunity to go to Cuba with a team of women from my church to put on a women's conference. And our church has a relationship with Cuba, and like Cuba's amazing. Like that's where you really experience God's love. Like
Mm.
Cubans just walk in that. But to be honest, in 2019, I experienced a lot of wounds from women in ministry.
Mm.
So there is this tension that I have of like feeling that God is inviting me to step into this, but I'm kind of like pulling away because I literally prayed a few months ago, like, God, if you want me to do anything with women, can we just circle back to when I'm 40?
Mm.
Because of what I experienced, I'm like,
Mhm.
this is too much. And literally, my mindset has always been the only drama that I like in my life is on TV. And
Mm.
I was just having too much drama. So
Mhm.
I pushed through that. I went to Cuba. God showed out as he always did. And it was in Cuba for that conference that I got to bring all of myself into that space. I got to do Zumba before I preach. And I really just feel like that should be a thing in America. Like we do Zumba and then we hear God's word and we worship. I got to connect with women from all ages, all, backgrounds. And I got to encourage God's daughters of all ages and support women and really I never knew how intimate washing someone's feet was.
Mm.
And there's a part of me, to be honest, I'm like, oh Lord, I'm about to be touching a lot of women's,
Yeah.
feet, but you get into it and you're not even worried about anything. And I came home from that trip and I just had this vision of creating spaces for women to experience that and for me to bring all of myself. Like I have been longing for this. And that's how Authentically Arise came to be. Initially, all I had was like Arise, and I'm like, Arise what? And there was other names and ministries I found. I'm like, oh man. But my husband actually helped me
Mm.
name it as Authentically Arise. And it's all about creating authentic spaces for women to arise into their God given identity and purpose and build community along the journey.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I was able to go to the last event that
Yes,
was in.
you were. That is so special
Yes.
to me. I was thinking about that on the way here. Like, she really came, y'all. She really supported
It
me. It means
was
a lot.
it was beautiful, and it was needed for me, the message that was said. I want to touch on something you mentioned because it touched my heart. I can relate to. You talked about having wounds
I
from
had a
being
feeling you was
hurt
going to go
by
there. Okay.
women. Yes. I mean, I can relate, and not necessarily by women in ministry, but high school scarred me. Like
Listen,
it did.
listen.
It did. And so, being hurt by other girls really like left that wound of like, I don't like, I can't trust. I had a
Mm-hmm.
trust issue with other women, and that took a long time to heal. And so, if you don't mind, like, would you speak into that? Like, what did that healing process with your relationship with women and friendships look like?
Man, how much time do you have?
Right.
Sorry, my throat. Um, I think for me, it just really caught me off guard because I felt like they were just consecutive wounds
Mm.
of like, okay, I'm getting wounded by, women in the church and then outside of the church in this context and in this situation. So for me, it was bringing that to God.
Mm.
I knew I had to because several years prior, I wouldn't even say a wound, I would say like a scratch leak and really damage a
Mm.
relationship that meant a lot to me.
Mhm.
So I just invited God into that, and I was honest. I told him, if you want me to do anything with women, can we just time out because, this hurts.
Yeah.
And I think the authentic and honest part of just telling God, I am hurt. And I don't know, like, I know these are supposed to be my sisters in Christ, and I'm not supposed to have these walls. I know I'm supposed to guard my heart with all diligence, but I'm talking about top flight security, all the things. I need you to help me because right now it's making me, as an introvert, turn even more inward
Yeah.
and really look at other people through the lens of my wounds. Like, you're going to do that to me too. So, really inviting him in and reaching out to mentors to help me process,
Mhm.
which is also hard to reach out and be like, I'm really struggling with this.
Yeah.
Can you help me?
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough. And, you know, I always think about that one phrase that we hear a lot is like, hurt people.
Mm-hmm.
Because
That's,
we're all just broken people,
mm-hmm.
and I'm pretty sure most people also just long for relationship and friendship. And there are women, especially, I was talking about high school drama, but like you get older and there are mature women who want a deep connection, can have a godly friendship, and that's a
Yes.
beautiful thing. And yeah, sometimes you just gotta, God, Jesus, help me heal these wounds.
God help.
I feel you.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so I feel like this all connects everything that I wanted to ask you, because it's hard to be your authentic self when you have been wounded and you have the trauma. But before we even get into that, I want to ask you, what does being your authentic self mean? Like, how do we discover that? And the reason why I'm asking you this is because it's honestly something that I've struggled with. And so I'll just speak into that a little bit. So, for example, a part of me, like, I can come on here and be put together and, make things happen or go on stage or whatever. But if you meet me in person, it's kind of like what we were talking about before. Like, I'm shy and I'm
Mm-hmm.
also introverted. And so it's like, I don't really want to be like talking to everybody. Like, it takes a lot of energy out of me. And so I felt conflicted because I'm like, what if people like see me? Like, I come off stage after church and they think I'm a fraud
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not who I presented myself to be. And yeah, basically they think I'm a fraud. And so that's something I've struggled with. It's like, what is my authentic self? So I don't know if you can speak into that. Like, how do we discover that and define that?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And how much time do you have, Rachel? I think the first thing for me is I start with, what is my inauthentic self?
Mm,
And for me, that is, when I go in a room and I decide to shrink, it's me when I'm around people and instead of doing what I want to do or saying what I want to do or doing what is natural and true for me, that I do something else. I do the
mm,
opposite. And I was actually having a conversation with a woman, and she was like, Aisha, I don't even know who I am.
mm,
Like, we were talking about Authentically Arise. Like, how do
mm,
I get to this place of authenticity? And for me, that starts with God. Like, my foundation
mm-hmm.
of who I am
Yeah.
comes from him. And in that, I just ask him, like, God, show me me. God,
Yeah.
show me who I am. God, what do you know about me
Mm,
that I don't know? And it's in that place of like silence and solitude that he starts to reveal who I am. He starts to remind me that, girl, you've loved dancing and performing and rapping since you were a kid. But because you got older and you got hurt and people told you some things and told you what being a woman in ministry was supposed to look like, you felt like who you were didn't fit what people told you it was
mm,
supposed to be. So you feel like you have to shrink and conform. And when I sit with God and invite him in, he's like, no, I made you like that. And there's
mm,
like joy and freedom in that. And I think also you can start to think about like, who were you as a kid? And also not feeling bad. I'm an introvert too. So, yes, when you see me up on stage, that is who I am. I'm on stage with with the person I am most comfortable with. That is
mm-hmm.
God. He knows me. So I'm just flowing and I'm free and I can have fun. But when I step off the stage, I no longer put that pressure on me to fake being extroverted.
Mm.
Imma be who I am, and when
Mhm.
I feel like my, social battery has declined, is at 5%,
Yeah.
Imma pull away and not beat myself up because that's who I am. There's lots of layers to me, and, when we talk about authenticity, do we have any Moana fans in the house, you know?
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
think about, restoring the heart of Tafiti and what we seen and heard about, that was not who she really was. She had a
Mm.
lot of wounds. She had a lot of pain, right? And I think that also gets in the way. Our experiences, our trauma can sometimes shift us into who we were never meant to be.
Yeah.
And like, God, restore my heart.
Yeah.
God, show me.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so beautiful. And I think from like an outside perspective, we tend to put people in boxes.
Yes, we do. And I'm allergic to boxes,
Yeah.
girl. I'm very allergic.
Yeah. And it's like, that's your skin color. So you're like this, and you're a
Mm-hmm.
woman in ministry. So this is what you're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just not who God created us to be. When we put ourselves and each other in boxes, like we're limiting each other to like, and we can't fulfill like the beauty and the potential of who God is calling us to be. So I loved how you also touched on identity in Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, I think we mentioned this in every single
You
episode.
It's important. You got to.
Yeah.
You got to, y'all. You
It's
gotta know who you are. You gotta
mm-hmm.
know what God says. Cause then when I'm so like strong and secure in that foundation, then he shows me. I feel like that is foundation for everyone. But then he shows me you're also very goofy and you like to
Mm,
rap and you're
yeah.
you're also introvert and you like to dance and I can
Yeah.
celebrate
Yeah.
how uniquely he made me
Mm-hmm.
and not feel like I'm at a deficit because I'm not extroverted or because I'm not this or because my weight is not this or whatever the case is,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. We are beautifully complex.
Yes.
It's a
Yes.
beautiful thing. God made us this way. Get out of the box.
Beautifully complex. I'm gonna take that
Yeah.
in my yeah, I'm gonna take
Yeah,
that.
take
Thank you.
that.
Okay.
Yeah. So thank you for that. I brought you on secretly because I just wanted to ask you these questions. This was for me, but I'm sure if it's something I struggled with, then someone else out there has struggled with it as well.
Yeah, and to be honest, I've struggled with it too.
Mm,
Like there has been a lot of wrestling to get through this place to authentically arise. And it's not to say I've arrived either. It's a journey. I'm continuing. It is a mindset
yeah.
of I am going to authentically arise into the woman that God has created me to be every single day.
Mm-hmm.
I have a choice to be my authentic self or to shrink or to be what people think I should be.
Mm-hmm.
Every day I have that
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now that we know what our authentic self is or how we discover that, how do we show up as our authentic self in our relationships and friendships, especially when we have that wound of like, it hurts sometimes to put yourself out there and be vulnerable and say, this is me, because there's the potential of rejection and somebody might
Yeah.
not like that. So, like, how do we show up as our authentic self?
Yeah. Well, I know you know this because our first Authentically Arise event was all about this,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm a huge champion of do it afraid.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you show up as your authentic self in the beginning, yeah, you're going to have to do it afraid and it's going to be uncomfortable, especially if you've kind of had this, persona that you've walked in or, COVID mask, but we've been wearing masks since, before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
I think with that, it just takes practice. It takes safe people cheering you on, like, I love you exactly who you are,
Yeah.
as you are. And also just knowing that some people, like, for example, when I started implementing boundaries and started releasing the people pleaser in me, I don't know if we got any other people pleasers watching with us, but people started to, I started to see some different sides of people
Mm.
because they always expected me to say yes and always expected I could count on Aisha. And I'm like, actually, no, I can't do that. Actually, no, I don't want to do that. And that is so hard. Like, I'm
Mhm.
literally behind the scenes praying, asking God to hype me up. But I think it just takes practice. And for me, as scary as it is to remove those layers and walk in authenticity, it's scary to imagine living a life as someone God never intended me to be.
Mm.
And I also know that whenever fear is present, there is something on the other side of that that is good.
Yeah.
And I feel like the other side of fear when it comes to being your authentic self is freedom. Like,
Mm-hmm.
man, I feel so free. Like the fact, what Rachel referenced was me doing a spoken word last week, which turned into like this whole Hamilton rap
Mm-hmm.
experience. That's because I am so free now and my authentic self and every part of me. It is just, I don't want to say leaking, it is overflowing
Mm-hmm.
into every single thing that I do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fun, it's liberating, like, oh man, I have been in bondage and I didn't even realize it. Even if I'm like operating at like a 70 or 80% authenticity, like there is this freedom that I feel and I'm just like, King Kong beat on my chest right now. Like it is amazing. And,
Yeah.
and that's what I pray I continue to walk in and help other women experience that too.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And it's so needed. And I thank you for what you're doing. Like you said, that event, I needed that word. And doing it scared has been like my own personal mantra. And it's
Yes.
so real when it comes to friendships, relationships. Like, you just have to be vulnerable and go into it scared and just
Hmm.
be yourself. And if someone doesn't like it, then they can move on, but there is a friend for you. There is a
Yes.
relationship for you of someone who's going to accept you for who you are. Like, it is possible. And like you said, the freedom is on the other side when you
Yes.
finally have the courage to show up as your authentic self. There's freedom on the other side.
Yeah, and I'm not one to over spiritualize anything, but like legit pray, like, God, give me confidence and courage to be my authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
If you just need to start there and like make that your prayer, do that
Yeah.
because it is hard.
Mm-hmm.
And then hopefully there you have at least one trusted friend that can encourage you, keep you accountable. Like, I'm about to, tell this in my relationship or say this to a friend because I've actually been sitting on it because I don't want to rock the boat or I don't want them to, change how they see me.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I ask God for every day to help me walk in confidence and courage and authenticity.
Yeah.
Why would I not?
Right. Oh my gosh. So good, Aisha. Thank you so much for being here and having this conversation. Like, it is so needed. I needed it. I know someone else out there needed it. So, will you tell us how can we find you online and get plugged into Authentically Arise?
Yes. Thank you again for having me.
Yeah.
This has been awesome. I feel like we're gonna have a private conversation later about like wounds and all of that. And that
Mm-hmm.
is so important. And that's why I was so excited to be here because your podcast is He Heals podcast. So
Mm-hmm.
that is amazing. You can follow Authentically Arise on Instagram at Authentically Arise. Our website is shocker, www.authenticallyarise.com. And then I am _ Aisha Cox on Insta.
All right. Go follow her now. Go get plugged into Authentically Arise. It is also an online community. So, no matter where
Yes.
you are in the
It
world,
don't matter.
it don't matter. You can get plugged in, online Bible studies, all that. Like,
Yes.
if you need community, here you go. We got an online community for you.
Come. We would love to, connect with you. And yeah, I think one of the things that I want to mention is I know so many of us want to be seen and known and loved. And my prayer is that Authentically Arise is a safe place where you can experience that, where you can actually be seen and accepted and embraced for who you are. So love to have you plug in with us.
Yeah. And if this episode touched your heart like it did mine, go ahead, share this on your social media. Tag Aisha, tag He Heals Podcast. We want to see you. And thank you, Aisha.
Thank you, girl.